Hello and welcome to the Friday edition of the DSR Daily. I'm your host for today, Riley Fessler, joined by Minna Stein. Minna, how are you on this lovely Friday?
I'm happy it's Friday. How are you?
I'm also happy it's Friday, so I can't be too bad. Well, we've got another slate of stories for you today, and I'll go ahead and get us kicked off with a look at the Georgia court case against Donald Trump, where 2 of the 10 criminal charges were dropped and 1 additional charge against his allies concerning alleged attempts to interfere in the 2020 presidential election were also dropped. Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee ruled that the state lacked authority to bring charges related to the alleged filing of false documents in federal court, allowing the remaining 8 charges against Trump to proceed. Trump's lawyer, Stephen Sato, praised the ruling as another victory. The case, which accuses Trump and 18 others of conspiring to unlawfully change the election outcome, has been largely on hold since June due to allegations of misconduct against Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, currently under consideration by a Georgia appeals court. I guess it's a small victory for the Trump camp, but 8 of the charges are still going forward, so it's not,
Yeah.
They can spin it any way they want, but ultimately there's still 8 criminal charges moving forward. So it's frustrating that it seems like none of these cases are actually going to get any kind of resolution before the election, which seems like it would be good for the American people to know if one of their candidates is an even greater criminal than we already know he is.
And no
But
sentencing until after the election.
yeah, which is very key. So I mean, obviously, that was kind of the hope from the Trump camp from the jump. It seems like they finally succeeded in making sure that was fully delayed beyond the election. But it's just one of the reasons that it's so necessary for Kamala Harris to win, so that Trump can face actual justice for his for his crimes. Because, as we know, if he wins, that's their best strategy for getting rid of all these charges.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of Trump, Donald Trump announced that he would not participate in another presidential debate against Kamala Harris before the November 5th election. This decision follows several polls indicating that Harris won their recent debate, which drew 67.1 million viewers. Despite Trump claiming victory on social media, surveys suggest that Harris was favored by a majority of respondents. According to a Reuters Ipsos poll, 53% of voters thought Harris won, while 24% supported Trump. A CNN flash poll and a YouGov poll also indicated that Harris outperformed Trump. Harris has called for another debate, emphasizing the importance of further discussion for the voters. Yeah, I mean, obviously Harris wants more debates because she gave one of the best debate performances maybe ever, and she wants to get in front of the American people and make sure they get to know her. But I don't know. I think Trump has kind of been lack of a better term, a debate tease. I feel like these yes, I'll debate, no, I won't debate really doesn't mean anything until he shows up. He's kind of
Yeah,
always on and off,
I want to
hot
know
and
who the
cold.
24. I want to know who the 24% of people who thought Trump won that debate were in that Reuters Ipsos poll, and I want to know if they actually watched it, because I don't know how anybody beyond the most delusional Trump supporter can have watched that debate and been like, "Yeah, Trump won this." I mean, I just you have to be living in another
Yeah.
reality to think that happened. Even if you still support Trump after the debate, as many Republicans I've seen do, they still admitted he lost the debate.
Right.
So to be lying and say that he won, I mean, you just have to be on another plane of existence at this point, or
What's
just so unbelievably dishonest that you don't care that people know you're a liar.
What's more confusing to me, honestly, is less who supports Trump, because we know that his supporters are ride or die for him. But what's confusing to me is people who are still undecided after the debate. Only because I'm thinking, like, did you watch the debate? Like, how could you possibly be undecided?
I mean, to
It
be
couldn't be
fair, I don't.
clear to me, but I guess I have a bias.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't really understand how people were undecided before the debate either. But yeah, I mean, even after the debate, where I mean, I guess the big argument for undecideds was they didn't really know Kamala Harris very well.
Exactly. But now they
Um,
do.
and
You
now they
can't say you don't
should.
know what her policies are. You can't say you don't know if she's a
Yeah.
strong leader. It couldn't be clearer that she's ready to be president.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Again, we're coming at this from a position of relative privilege where we study these things for our job, so we have to stay informed. And I'm trying to put myself in the
Yeah.
shoes of the undecided voter who doesn't get to read about this all day. But I still struggle to understand kind of where they're coming from and why this is still a toss up. But you know, I guess maybe that's just because I'm a coastal elite.
It's definitely because you're a coastal elite.
I've lost touch with my Midwest roots. Well,
Exactly.
most of our stories today actually touch on Trump, for better or for worse, mostly for worse.
Typical.
Federal authorities are preparing to file criminal charges against Iran for an alleged hack and leak attack targeting Donald Trump's 2020 presidential campaign. The FBI's investigation has focused on an online persona named Robert, believed to be working on behalf of the Iranian government, who shared stolen Trump campaign documents with reporters under false pretenses. Among those hacked was Susie Wiles, a senior Trump campaign advisor. Despite the challenges of extraditing hackers from countries like Iran, the U.S. has launched name and shame campaigns in the past against cyber criminals from countries like Russia, China, and North Korea. Yeah, I'm not really sure what charges are going to do. It's not like Iran is going to extradite someone. So, I fail to see kind of what a charge does other than, obviously goes through the correct legal processes to determine who was responsible for this. This is not going to be the first. It's not the first. It's not going to be the last of similar cyber attacks on the election. For more information about this, check out yesterday's podcast, where we talk about kind of how to weed through misinformation, disinformation, and the role that foreign actors play in that. So it was a great episode. I encourage everyone to go listen to it. It was fantastic.
Yeah, it was a great episode. I really enjoyed that one. Well, away from Trump for 2 seconds and on to the Biden administration. With only 4 months left in Biden's term and limited chances for additional congressional funding for Ukraine, the White House is evaluating how best to support Kyiv. Options including lifting geographic restrictions on Western weapons, as suggested by Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Despite efforts to enhance Ukraine's position, challenges are mounting, especially with Russia's recent counterattacks and criticisms of inadequate Western support. Future U.S. support remains uncertain depending on the next president, and the administration is working with NATO on long-term plans to sustain aid for Ukraine. Obviously, not to make this one story that wasn't about Trump, but during the debate, Ukraine was talked about quite a bit. Like we mentioned, big focus on foreign policy, and whoever the next president is will definitely have some big decisions to make in terms of how we support Ukraine and what our position is in that war.
Yeah, and lifting geographic restrictions is obviously something that Ukraine has been begging for since this war started. It would be a huge shift in terms of their ability to fight back against Russia. Russia would see it as a huge escalation. So obviously, how they respond is the biggest concern from this, especially a nuclear armed country. And as the story we covered yesterday, there's some sentiment among influential figures that Russia has not taken a bold enough stance with its nuclear deterrent. So I would be really curious and nervous to see how lifting these restrictions would play out. I think it's necessary for Ukraine to actually win this war and see it to a swift conclusion, if a swift conclusion is even possible. But there's certainly a lot of factors in this decision, and that's why I'm certain the administration has been dragging their feet in terms of lifting those restrictions.
Yeah.
But maybe they'll change their tune. We'll see.
A lot's at stake.
Well, to wrap things up with, again, Donald Trump. Far-right activist Laura Loomer's recent proximity to Donald Trump has raised questions about her influence and attracted criticism from GOP figures. Known for promoting conspiracy theories and using racist rhetoric, Loomer has been seen alongside Trump at high-profile events, including the 9/11 memorial. Although she holds no official role in Trump's campaign, her presence has sparked a backlash from figures like Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene and Senator Lindsey Graham, who condemned her divisive comments. Despite this, Loomer remains defiant, continuing to support Trump and dismissing the criticism as attacks on her activism. Democrats have also criticized Trump's association with Loomer, calling it troubling for the country. And the big inciting incident for this story was Laura Loomer's incredibly racist social media post on Twitter.
Oh boy.
Some of the comments she made, I won't read the full tweet here, but said, quote, "The White House will smell like curry and White House speeches will be facilitated via a call center that no one can understand." Yeah, I mean, pretty extremely racist, and apparently even too racist for Marjorie Taylor Greene, who called Laura Loomer racist and said this does not represent President Trump. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But she said, this has no place in the MAGA movement. Again, not sure I agree.
What?
But it is crazy.
Wait, that's crazy.
Yeah, and you've gone way too far when Marjorie Taylor Greene's like, "Hey, now that's a bit racist."
You've gone too far when you've turned Marjorie Taylor Greene into an anti-racist.
Yeah, into an ally. But it's concerning that Trump is surrounding himself with this extreme of people. It's not necessarily a new phenomena. He had Steve Bannon with him last time around, so he's no stranger to having controversial and psychotic figures in his administration, in his orbit. But this tone from other members of MAGA against Laura Loomer is, I think, relatively new. How that'll actually affect things, whether this will put Greene in his bad graces or whether this will only kind of force Laura Loomer out. Hard to say, but it is a fascinating I
thought their whole strategy was that she's not Indian anymore, that she decided that she was black. And now they're attacking her for being Indian.
Strategy is a strong word.
Yeah. Fair.
To associate with
fair enough.
In the Trump campaign.
Yeah, I guess racist at all costs. That's the strategy.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy. But on that positive note, that is all I have for us today. But we have more shows coming out later today. We have a Scylla Consciousness that will hit your feeds later. We have 2 episodes from yesterday that were fantastic that I encourage everyone to go take a listen to. And until that, we join you again on Monday. Have a good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.